let's go to the utility render elements. I'm going to close these ones that we already use. And in utility, you have a bunch. You can check them all, but I'm going to show you two relevant ones, and it's the extra texture and the material select. Okay, the Vray denoiser, it's basically a render element that is going to reduce the noise. But the difference between this one and all the other render elements is that this one is going to affect your RGB path. Your RGB path is the one that you have here by default, okay? And basically to take out noise. So if I would render this now and actually let it render completely, you are basically not going to notice much of a difference, okay? You use the denoiser when you have a complex scene and you really want to see a lot of detail. So let's use the other render elements, okay? And let's go to my render setup. In the render elements, I'm going to delete this one just for the sake of being clear, and I have my extra texture. And what I can do with the extra texture is create ambient occlusion. So I'm going to call this Vray ambient occlusion 2 centimeters, and I can actually have several render passes of the same, okay, even if I don't change the name. So another extra texture of ambient occlusion 10 centimeters, okay? And what this requires, so right now if I render it, it's just going to come out white, and this is because I have no texture. So for that, I need to actually add my Vray dirt map that is down here. Yes, and it's actually by default in ambient occlusion. Okay, mode ambient occlusion. So it comes by default on 10. So I'm going to add it on the 10 texture ambient occlusion, and then I'm going to just copy it and put 2 centimeters. Yes, and just going to add it here on this map. Okay, and I'm going to render again my scene. So if I check my Vray extra text, actually for some reason it's not taking the name. It should take the name. Okay, I have here the one for the 2 centimeters, and this is the one for the 10 centimeters. Okay, and I can add as many ambient occlusion as I want. And this is not so clear because I actually stopped the render. Okay. And you can define here what you want to exclude. You can force it to be a 32-bit output. And this one is actually considering for anti-aliasing. And here on utilities, I'm actually going to erase these ones. Okay, and I'm going to open the Vray material select. So add material select. And this does what I had before here in the image sampler. The render mask it's a similar thing, okay? So I'm going to go to my render elements, material select, and it does is select a material. So before it was about selecting an object, now I'm going to select a material. So I'm going to pick the red ball just for the sake of consistency, okay? Okay, so actually when it renders, it's going to be called render ball, red ball. One thing I can do is just, do this region so that I don't have to wait so long. But then, of course, the render elements are also going to be within this region. So if I go now to the material select, and it's actually telling me which material, then I just see the ball, okay, and it comes with the alpha. This is the different thing. It doesn't bring me the alpha that the other option was bringing me, okay. So in this one, in the image sampler, when I do the render mask, I get the object and the mask. In this one, it's just the object separated. But it's still quite easy because everything around it is black. So between the other options in utility map, you can actually, there is a lot to do with it, okay, and it's mostly about information. Okay, so let's go to my geometry maps, and I have there my C depth, my wire color is the one that I showed you before, okay, and velocity, that would be the motion graphics, and sorry, motion blur, which right now makes no sense because I have nothing animated, okay? I'm going to show you another one that is the light selection, okay? So I'm gonna erase this one, and it's gonna be down here in light select, okay? And what I do with this one is that I can pick which lights I want to see. So for example, I add this one, I have to select the light, and I'm going to pick this eyes, okay, and then I can add a different light select, and in this one I can add the dome, so the HDRI. So if I render now, so I'm going to stop it now, and let's check our light. So right now I'm seeing the intensity of my IS light, and here is the one of my HDRI, okay? Now the next option we are going to check is set depth. I'm going to erase these ones, and there's a set depth. By the way, velocities here, that's for the motion blur. So for the set depth, I have here a target. Okay, what's the minimum and the max? So I can actually take my camera and check more or less where is the target, and my target distance is in 187. Okay, so I can basically set my max depth to one. So let's say 400. Okay, sorry, 400. And my minimum depth to 160. So it's gonna be somewhere here, and the other one way in the back. Actually, let's make it a little bit shorter. Okay, and so what it's defining is this range. Okay, so I can now render it, and it would automatically be saved in my render path if I would have set it, but otherwise I have it here. And I'm going to open it in Photoshop and show you how to use it for post-processing. So here's my RGB image. I'm going to save it. Let's save it on my desktop, and just RGB. And the format, it can just be a JPEG, okay? Just for the sake of right now. And then I'm going to take my C depth, so it's a white and black setup, and of course it never goes to black because this is too close to the object. So, but I'm going to save it anyway, okay? And this is going to be my depth of field, and as a JPEG, sorry. And now if I go to Photoshop and I load the two images, I can do a script. Load files into stack, browse, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and I have the two of them. Okay, so what I need is to put my depth of field path in a channel. So for that I go to channel, I add a new one, and I paste it. Okay, and I can actually turn it off now. I don't need it on. Okay, and I don't need also this one on, so I'm just going to take it off. And I go to filter, blur, lens blur, and I'm going to load the source here. Okay, and this is actually taken, wait, let me check the name, channel alpha 1. Okay, so I go to my lens blur, and I take here alpha 1, Okay, and I can now change the focal length. So as you can see, this is sharp and this is already blurred, and it's taking into account the blur mask. I can change it a little bit more in the back, okay, a little bit more in the front, okay, and use that depth map. So remember to set up your minimum and max, and then it works. Okay, and the same way you can use your motion blur, and this is it for the render elements.